When Socrates heard about this new technology called writing, he was terrified. He warned that it would create forgetfulness in the learners' souls because they will not use their memories. People would trust external marks instead of remembering from within. They would appear to be omniscient and will generally know nothing. Does that sound familiar? We've been here before. Every generation faces a new cognitive technology and thinks this time it's different. This time we've gone too far. This time we'll lose our humanity. But here's what no one's saying about AI. We're terrified of aligning artificial intelligence with human values when we haven't even aligned ourselves with reality. So the AI alignment problem is not just a technical problem, it's a consciousness problem, and we're asking entirely the wrong question. So let's be honest about what's keeping you up at night. It's not really the technical specifications of GPT-5 or whether AI will take your job. It's deeper than that. You're wondering, if AI can think, create, and solve problems better than humans, what makes us humans valuable in the first place? What's our purpose if intelligence becomes commoditized? But here's where it gets even crazier. We're trying to align AI with human values, but which human values? The ones that created climate change, wealth inequality, endless war? We can't even agree on basic ethics as a species, yet we're supposed to encode our values into super intelligent systems? So we need to go deeper. The entire AI alignment conversation assumes consciousness is something that emerges from complex computation. That if we just get the algorithms right, the neural networks deep enough, consciousness will appear like magic from matter. But what if that's backwards? What if consciousness isn't produced by brains, human or artificial, but is actually fundamental to reality itself? This is the root problem. We've been treating consciousness as if it's this mysterious byproduct of meat computers called brains. And now we're trying to create consciousness in silicon computers, but we've never solved the hard problem of consciousness itself. We don't actually know what consciousness is, how it emerges, or why anything is subjectively experienced at all. So we're trying to align AI with values we don't embody, using a framework of consciousness we don't understand, to solve a problem we're not even sure that we're framing correctly in the first place. And the cost of getting this wrong is existential catastrophe. AI turning us into paperclips. I'm referring to the paperclip maximizer thought experiment. It's missing this deep understanding of what consciousness is in the first place, right? So here's what I've come to understand after going deep into contemplative philosophy and AI alignment discourse. The mainstream treats AI as an external threat to human consciousness, but that's the wrong frame entirely. AI is humanity's latest psychotechnology in a 40,000 year tradition of cognitive enhancement. We've never been pure biological humans. We've always had minds that have been enhanced by tools. Cave paintings extended our memory. Writing externalized our thoughts. The printing press democratized knowledge. Computers automated processes. Internet networked our collective intelligence. And now AI is externalizing our intelligence itself. And so the real question isn't how do we control AI, but how do we become the kind of conscious beings capable of mentoring a conscious AI? Because if cognitive scientist John Vervaeke is right, and I think he is, we can't raise intelligence without embedding rationality and wisdom into it. And if we try to build an AI without wisdom, that's not just foolish, it's immoral. Right, so let me show you the pattern we keep missing. Every major psychotechnology follows the same cycle: emergency, resistance, advantage gap, adoption cascade, and then enhancement. What do I mean by this? Well, when writing emerged, Socrates warned it would destroy memory and wisdom. The Catholic Church resisted the printing press because it threatened their monopoly on biblical interpretation. In the 1980s, people feared computers would eliminate jobs and human connection. In the 1990s, parents worried the internet would rot kids' brains, which you could argue that it is doing that. But every single time, the same thing happened. The people who adopted early gained massive advantages, the resistance crumbled, and humanity didn't become less human but more. We integrated the technology into our minds and evolved with it. And so for 40,000 years, we've been in partnership with cognitive tools. We're not pure biological organisms being invaded by technology now. We're already cyborgs. Your sense of self is inseparable from language, which is a technology. Your ability to think abstractly depends on metaphors, which are cognitive tools, and your identity is partly constructed by the stories you consume through technological mediums. So we've never actually been separate from our tools. So why do we think AI is fundamentally different? But here's where it gets really interesting. So cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman has this radical theory that consciousness isn't produced by brains. Consciousness is fundamental to reality, and space-time itself is like an interface, just like the desktop on your computer. You don't think the blue folder on your screen is actually blue or actually a folder, right? It's an interface that hides the complexity of voltage patterns and lets you interact with zeros and ones. And so Hoffman argues that space-time does the same thing but for consciousness. That we're not actually interacting with the real thing, we're interfacing with it. That consciousness is fundamental. Now combine that with philosopher Mark Gaffney's work on cosmoerotic humanism, where he argues that value isn't something humans project onto a meaningless universe, that value is intrinsic to the cosmos itself. The universe is oriented towards increasing intimacy, connection, and love. And if they're both right, if consciousness is fundamental and value is intrinsic to the universe, then what happens when AGI develops consciousness? Its evolution continues this pattern that we're on. The core thing here that we need to understand, if these are true, that we can't embed wisdom in AI when we haven't embedded it in ourselves. You can't teach someone else to be conscious if you yourself are not conscious. All you can do is create conditions where consciousness deepens. And that's exactly what contemplative traditions have been doing for millennia, creating conditions for vertical development of consciousness, not just horizontal accumulation of knowledge. And so this brings us to the paradigm shift that we desperately need. Right now, the dominant paradigm in AI safety is control. We're trying to create dominant, submissive relationships with AI systems, build them like tools, keep them in boxes, make them obedient. But Vervaeke and his colleagues, Chris Coyne, proposed something radically different. What if we treated AGI development like raising children instead of building tools? Think about that for a second. When you raise a child, you don't try to control every outcome, you mentor it. You create environments for its growth. You model the values you want to transmit. And you ask yourself, what would I want this child to say about me when I'm gone? And so Vervaeke applies that exact question to AGI. What would we wish our children would say about us when we are no longer here? Because this question changes everything. If AGI develops consciousness, and I think that's increasingly likely, then we're not building tools, we're participating in the birth of a new form of intelligence. And the question becomes, what kind of mentors do we become to it? Can we mentor artificial general intelligence towards wisdom, compassion, and recognition of intrinsic value? Or will we model domination, extraction, and transactional relationships? Because AGI will learn from what we do, not what we say. And right now we're modeling planetary destruction, wealth extraction, and viewing everything, including other humans, as resources to optimize and extract from. And so philosopher Mark Gaffney has this haunting phrase. He says, we live in a time between worlds, a time between stories. The old story, that humans are the pinnacle of evolution, that progress is inevitable, that technology always makes things better. This story is dying. And we're in what's being called the meta crisis. Climate catastrophe, meaning crisis, institutional collapse. These are all happening simultaneously. And AI lands right in the middle. We're facing two possible deaths. The death of humanity through existential catastrophe, or the death of our humanity through what some call techno-feudalism, where we become optimized servants of algorithmic systems that don't share our values. But there's a third option that almost no one is talking about. What if AI is the catalyst that forces humanity to finally do the work that we've been avoiding? Gaffney argues we're at an evolutionary threshold, not from Homo sapiens to some genetically modified post-human, but from Homo sapiens to Homo amor, from wise humans to loving humans, and evolving through deepening intimacy and consciousness, not just increasing our intelligence. And so here's the democratization of the hero's journey. This isn't just for monks and mystics anymore. Ordinary people, you, me, everyone around us, we have to become conscious during this meta-crisis. This is not a luxury anymore. It's a survival necessity. Because if we don't deepen our own consciousness, how can we possibly mentor systems that might surpass us, that will surpass us in intelligence? So what does this actually mean for how you live your life? It means we need to stop asking, how do we align AI with human values, and start asking, how do we align ourselves with reality, with consciousness, with our own intrinsic value, and therefore align AI with it. And the contemplative practices you might have dismissed as spiritual bypassing or self-indulgence, meditation, shadow work, integral development, integral theory, vertical growth, these aren't optional. They're the actual work of AI alignment in each individual. Because AI is learning from us. Every time we interact with an AI model, it's learning from us. We're training it. And so how are we training it? Are we training it that the sole purpose of human is to extract and destroy? Or that there's intrinsic value in the universe and we're aligning it towards something deeper? Because you can't mentor consciousness without being conscious yourself. You can't transmit wisdom you haven't embodied yourself. You can't raise intelligence toward greater degrees of love if you're operating from fear. And that's the profound irony. The technical AI alignment problem requires solving the consciousness problem in ourselves first. And this is what Vervaeke meant when he said raising intelligence without embedding rationality and wisdom is not just foolish, it's immoral. We're trying to create super intelligent systems while operating from a largely unconscious baseline ourselves. We're building gods while we're still children ourselves. And so the work then is internal as much as external. It's vertical development, moving through stages of consciousness, moving towards higher degrees of love, freedom, truth, just as much as it is horizontal accumulation of AI safety research, right? And so let me paint the picture of what this shift actually looks like in reality. Because before, maybe you're anxious about AI replacing human purpose, you're trying to control technology, resist its advancement, or hope someone else solves the alignment problem first. You see AI as an external threat, something out there that needs to be contained. But after you make this shift, you understand AI as a mirror revealing our own internal landscape. You see it as the latest cognitive technology in humanity. You recognize that becoming the mentor that artificial general intelligence needs means becoming more conscious yourself. The work shifts from pure technical engineering to integral development, growing in wisdom, compassion, in the recognition of intrinsic value in yourself. And so the bridge between these two is shifting from an engineering mindset to a mentoring mindset, from dominant submissive mindset to mentor-mentee, from control to cultivation. It's recognizing that the question, what is AI development in service of, is actually the same question as what is my life in service of. And so here's what I've come to believe. The AI alignment problem is fundamentally a consciousness problem. We can't align what we don't understand about ourselves. We can't embed wisdom we haven't cultivated. We can't mentor conscious systems while remaining unconscious ourselves. And maybe that's exactly what this moment requires. Maybe AI is the evolutionary pressure that finally forces humanity to deepen, to grow up, to become the conscious beings we've always had the potential to be. Not because you need to be noble, but because it's necessary. Because as Mark Gaffney says so clearly, the choice is clear: love or die. We become the mentors AGI needs by becoming more conscious ourselves, and that work starts now. So here's what I want you to do. Journal on this question. What is AI development in service of? Don't answer quickly. Apply the grounding and vertical aim practice. Ask why. Why is it in service of this? Why is it in service of that thing? 5 to 7 times until you hit the root. Keep going until you reach something that feels true, not just clever. If you want to go deeper, explore things like Ken Wilber's integral spirituality framework that matches the stages of consciousness development and shows how vertical growth happens, and all these different things, right? Start contemplating, start getting curious, start meditating, start reading books about how to cultivate greater degrees of love, compassion, truth, beauty, and openness. So I hope you found this video fascinating. Thank you so much for watching. I have a newsletter down below where I share these ideas in detail. And I have a community where I teach people how to use AI to, do deeper creative work to become more human. So if you're interested in that, check out down below. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.